What's going on, guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. We're gonna do a different kind of comparison today to compare a UGQ custom down quilt to a mass-produced, if you will, Thermarest Corus 32-degree down quilt as well, and talk about why you might choose one or the other. And what's interesting about this is these are very similar in weight. They are also similar in price, but they have very different feature aspects to them. To just get this out of the way, the pack size between the two quilts, this is the UGQ Bandit. This is a 30-degree quilt. This is the 32-degree Chorus, 650 fill, 850 fill in this quilt, but we'll get into all those details as we go. We're going to talk first about the Chorus 32-degree. I was fortunate enough to get this sent to me from my friends at Campsaver. I've got a link down in the description for you to save on your Campsaver order, and appreciate Campsaver for hooking me up with some gear to share with you guys so that you know what kind of options and stuff are out there on the market. Here we go, Chorus 32-degree quilt. Now, what is unique and different about this is the overall shape of this quilt. You've got a really wide, big foot box, and you've also got these really large baffles. So big, wide baffles, and allows for a good amount of loft once you get this really lofted up and the down spread out. Super nice. And then here on the edges, you've got these draft tubes that are pretty cool, because what this quilt is more or less designed to do is not really tuck up underneath you like some other quilts do. It's meant to drape and cover the sides of your pads. What I've got here is a Nemo Tensor 20 by 72 inch pad. So it's kind of their standard regular length. I haven't seen this draft tube type of thing on any other quilt. But then in the case where, okay, it's gonna be a little bit colder, or I really wanna make sure that as I toss and turn and move within the quilt while I'm sleeping, they've got these, what they're calling Synergy Link, basically just stretchable pad straps that will adjust to the size of really any sleeping pad. So you can slide those underneath your pad, and then you are basically attached to the pad. The only downside to that is they don't like hug and snug really tight onto the pad, and they're also not adjustable. So they are one length, and they rely on this elastic for it to create some tension. But even on this 20-inch pad, this 20-inch wide pad, it's not quite tight enough for it to really eliminate the ability for the quilt to stay against the ground and that kind of thing. So they've made it extra wide throughout the entire width of the quilt, all the way from the head end down to the foot end. Like, if I hold this up again, you can see how wide that is all the way down to the foot end. Now, the reason that they have done that is with this quilt in particular, they've got other quilts Thermarest makes that's like the Vesper, or I can't remember the other one that they have, but those are more of like your traditional, very much a tapered style footbox and what you would expect from a mummy bag type of experience. But here on the footbox, this is meant to just open up super wide to give you a lot of room to move around with your feet. But the other thing that it is designed for is for you to be able to slide your sleeping pad, if you can see that over here on the edge of the frame, to slide your sleeping pad inside of the quilt. And I've never had a quilt before, or a sleeping bag for that matter, where you have the ability to slide your pad in that way. And what that's going to do is basically keep the quilt more attached and make it so it doesn't move around as much when you're sleeping. The issue with it though is there's not quite enough height. I have to like basically turn my feet out this way, and I can't sleep with my toes straight up. It just creates a little bit of pressure. What it does is it compresses the down on the bottom of the foot box where your feet are pressing up against it, and it makes it so that you have cold spots on your feet. And that is something that I experienced on my most recent trip when I took this out with me. But that is a unique design that is specific to this quilt that I haven't seen on other quilts. It does have this snap here at the top, which is also like when I compare it directly to the UGQ or just to other quilts that have this like snap around collar, is I like to have 2 snaps, because often when I'm moving around, it's pretty easy for this to unsnap. But they are using a metal snap on here instead of like those classic plastic cam snaps that you see. And so it holds really well in that aspect. And maybe for this particular design, you don't need 2 snaps here on the neck to make it so it doesn't come undone at night. One of the things that is missing from this quilt, there is no drawstring that comes across the collar at the neck. That's something that when I first got it, I was like, huh, that's interesting. You can at least snap it around your neck, but you don't have any way to like cinch that down a little bit to create less draft when you are sleeping with this quilt. So what I can say about this quilt is the sleeping experience with it is awesome. It's oversized. It makes it so that it feels very much like you're sleeping in your bed at home, and it's very comfortable, allows you to move around, and it sleeps warm. But let's talk about that in comparison to the UGQ products. So with the UGQ, yes, this particular quilt is spec'd out at 850 fill, but their lowest available option for down fill from UGQ is an 800 fill. This is a Nickwax 650 fill power down in the Thermarest. The issue for me is that typically with these mass-produced type of quilts, they're not putting an overstuff of down into the quilt. So the 32 degree rating on this quilt is not a comfort rating. That is going to be its lowest, and you want to be smart about making sure that, okay, I'm not going to take this into freezing temperatures because I would likely be cold. And as I'm holding the quilt up, it's proving that these baffles being as big as they are, if I was to take this into 20, 25 degree weather, I would be cold with it. So keep that in mind, that the 650 fill, it requires more down into the baffles to get the temperature rating that you need versus an 800 or 850 fill that you have with this. And that is also stuffed to a comfort rating. So the 30 degree rating on this UGQ quilt is a 30 degree comfort rating. This has more down in it to achieve that comfort rating versus this that has just the minimal amount to achieve that cold rating at 32 degrees. So that's the difference there. Okay, so let's pull this quilt off of the table, put it down here behind me, and let's pull out the UGQ Bandit. But as I'm doing this, let's talk about the price differences between the Corus quilt and the UGQ as its like base design. So if you were to go basic everything, just not spend any extra money, just all the standard features and equipment basically for the UGQ, you're going to spend about $220. That's going to give you a drawstring foot box, a zipper for you to be able to open that up. It'll give you pretty much everything that you need for a basic standard quilt. That's also going to be 800 down fill power. With the Corus, you're going to spend anywhere from $220 to about $240 retail. You're going to be able to find it on sale, obviously, but very cost comparative for the differences in what you are able to get option-wise with the quilt. Even the UGQ is very like sleeping bag shaped, and aside from it not having a hood and creating that full cocoon that you get from like a traditional mummy bag, it's very similar in like type and understanding of a sleeping bag than it is like a full-on quilt like you saw with the Corus. The Corus is meant to be very roomy and spacious, and that is a huge selling point for people that want that room to move around and everything. So let's talk about the features of this quilt and what you get. So like I said, this one is spec'd out to about $315 because I've added several things to it. I added to have the 850 fill down fill option. I asked for their dynamic tension control system, which is put here on the edges of the quilt that allows it for it to eliminate those draft points, and it tucks up underneath your body. and instead of it being nice and wide, it's pulling and sucking that in so that you still have room to move around, but because you have this elastic in here, it is pulling that tight against your body, eliminating those draft points. I did a boxed foot box on here that is a sewn foot box. It doesn't have a zipper or anything. You've got the cam snaps that bring this up, or you can open it up a little bit here on the foot box. And then I did not opt for a draft collar that I have on my 20 degree from them, but you do have standard this drawstring that allows you to pull this nice and tight or as loose as you want for your sleeping style, and that is just one of the benefits to being able to change your sleeping style based off of the temperatures that you're experiencing. So it makes it a little bit more versatile in that way. But you can see just in general the size differences in this quilt. Down here at the foot box, you are much more narrow, so less room for your feet to move around in. And then it does widen out, but it's not really meant to drape and be big and wide against against the ground like the Chorus is. And so when you are doing this type of design as a ground sleeper, you got to be smart about making sure that you get a quilt that's wide enough. So standard is like 50 inches, and that works great if you are a hammock camper, going to be sleeping in a hammock where you've got insulation underneath you wrapping around and up, where on the ground you are reliant on your sleeping pad for insulation on the ground, and so you need a wider quilt for you to be able to eliminate those draft points and keep yourself warm. You notice on here though that you've got a different style baffle system. So here in the foot box, you've got horizontal baffles that run this direction, and then through the torso and the body, up through your chest, into the head and your neck, you've got a vertical baffle that it's zone baffling basically. And here on the Chorus, you have horizontal baffles through the entire quilt. And the only downside to this is when you do that, your down likes to shift side to side, and it makes it so that the down doesn't stay right over top of your core. But the one thing that's nice is they do have this big draft tube on the side that allows for that to not shift all the way down and makes it easier to manage the down that way. But I'm a huge fan of vertical baffles and the horizontal baffle on the foot box versus the full horizontal baffles that you get here from the Chorus. So my last thought, or my last thing that I want to talk about here, is quilts are something that really they started in the cottage industry. They started as just a different style of product, and as this particular market of a custom quilt maker like UGQ or Jacks Are Better or Enlightened Equipment and those other styles of cottage brands, as those became more popular and people saw, okay, I can save a lot of weight with a quilt, it's a little bit more comfortable sleeping experience, it works better in a hammock. All of these other mainstream brands have started to look at that and go, ooh, that's a market that we could really tap into. And I think Thermarest is right on the cusp of being able to enter the realm of a product that is going to appeal really great to all of the people that are purchasing these custom quilts. And so Thermarest, I love this product. I think it's a little bit overpriced for what you get because, I mean, I got a full custom quilt here and I've got something that is lacking several features that I get out of this for basically the same price. And if you look at their like Vesper quilt, that thing is crazy expensive too, but it's very lightweight. So, I mean, there's trade-offs, pros and cons to everything. I'm curious what you guys would choose. So leave down in the comments a comment about what your preference is, what you like or dislike about the various quilt options out there on the market. And yeah, let's have that conversation. So appreciate you guys watching today. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope you guys have an awesome day. We'll catch you in the next video. See you later.